most probably then add a small cleanup crew just to combat any algae if any algae does turn up.
I'm pretty sure it might.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and as you guys saw in the intro, there's quite a bit of algae in the Nano Cube. Now, with every new setup, there is definitely the chance and the possibility that you're going to have an algae outbreak, and there's no need to panic. In my case, it is a little bit extreme. The brown hair algae has grown to quite an extent, and it is 100% all my fault. And there are a lot of mistakes that I made in the first 2 weeks of, well, planting the tank, filling up with water, and letting it cycle through. Now, as mentioned, obviously, there is no need to panic, and this is a natural cycle that the tank goes through, especially if you use fresh aqua soil. There's just going to be a large peak in nutrients that are going to be released into the water column. You can combat that through water changes. Many people do daily water changes, which can help a lot, and even just doing a weekly water change could help a lot as well. Unfortunately, I skipped on a few days of maintenance, and this is the result. Now, there are other mistakes that I made as well, and I'll get to those in a little while. But yeah, I would say the first thing obviously to do, and if anything like this happens to you, is just to go in manually and just take out as much algae as possible with your hand, with a toothbrush. Do a big water change, of course, and well, I need to do all of those. But before I actually dive into this tank, which is going to take quite some time, I'm actually going to take on my other two tanks and actually give them a little water change. The Half Moon tank needs a bit of glass cleaning and a water change, and the 3-foot tank that I actually set up recently ago needs a water change as well. There's just a lot of tannins that are being released by the two big pieces of wood, and there's quite a bit of muck on the top of the water surface that I want to get rid of. I don't have the strongest of filtration on the 3-foot tank, even though it's only filled halfway up with water. 100 liter for 2 small little filters is, yeah, the 2 small filters just aren't producing enough flow to disturb the surface and basically mix up the muck and filter it out. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a clean and a quick water change, and then that's basically done. And then we can take on the cube. Well, there we go. The first tank is done. The Half Moon tank is always pretty easy to maintain. Hardly any algae is growing anywhere. A little spot algae here and there on the glass, but I mean that I literally just cleaned off. And otherwise, the fish are doing absolutely great. They are really, really loving this scape. I'm going to add some Aquasafe now, and then the Half Moon tank is done. And there we go, the 3-foot tank is done as well. The water is much, much, much clearer. I added a little bit more water than the last time, but it is done. Takes a little bit longer, it's a little bit more volume of water to fill up. But yeah, I'm gonna add some Aquasafe, and then it is done. And then we can go to this mess over here. it is time to take on the cube, and yeah, it's always a daunting task if you have this much algae growing all over the place, and yeah, you just have to get your hands in there and start going. But before we dive in, I want to explain to you guys the mistakes that I made when I planted the tank and filled it up with water, and why the state of the aquarium, the way that it is right now, is primarily just all my fault. Mistake number one is I just didn't do enough maintenance. My water changes were irregular. So over the 2 weeks that it has been now set up, I think I only did around about 3 water changes, which wasn't enough. I should have done more, and I should have been a little bit more up to date on my maintenance. Unfortunately, there's the private life and everything else and all other projects that come in between, and it just gets pushed aside sometimes. The next thing is that I'm pretty sure a lot of you are going to be screaming at the screen is going to be too much light intensity, and just too long of a photo period time. And I did that mistake, unfortunately, as well. I started off around about 8 hours of light on this tank per day, and I reduced it down to 6 now. But I do think that the 2 lights on this tank is also just too much for the start. Now, once the plants are fully grown in, I think that I can definitely add the second light. But I am going to be taking one of these lights off just for the time being. I'm just going to be running 1 light, and that should be more than enough. So my mistake there as well. The third mistake that I did was with filtration. The filter on the tank works perfectly. It does its job, but in the 2 weeks, I just never actually cleaned it once. And it has gathered up quite a bit of gunk over the 2 weeks that it has been running. And the other thing that I also still wanted to do, but also just forgot and also just never got to, was to actually take some proper filter media, some established filter media out of the Half Moon Tanks filter, and actually add it to the hang on the back filter of the cube. This would have helped a little bit. It would have not solved the problem at all, but the beneficial bacteria in the filter would have at least helped to, well, reduce some form of ammonia and nitrates, and it would have helped. But unfortunately, as said, the maintenance wasn't there, so my fault. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to manually remove as much algae as I can with a toothbrush as well. Give it a few water changes, fill it back up again, clean the filter as well, since the filter pads are quite dirty, so the flow can just flow properly again. And then hopefully, that'll solve the problem. And then I'm also going to add a small cleanup crew. I usually like doing this after 2 weeks, so I still need to go get them, unfortunately, but I can't add them to this tank unless it is clean. So let's dive in. Well, there we go. The tank is clean. Not 100% clean, but definitely much cleaner than what it was before. You'll never get every single bit of algae, so that's why the cleanup crew is going to come in later on in the video. Off camera, I went ahead and I cleaned the filter roughly. I didn't go all out on it, and this is a hang on the back filter from Superfish. To be exact, the Superfish Hang On 50. It's a perfect little filter, and it is easily, well, modifiable, I would technically say. Now, after I was done cleaning with the filter, I actually already put some filter media in here, and then I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to take it apart quickly for you guys again and show you guys how and where I actually placed the filter media. There are two options, but I went for a different one. Now, a very simple little filter. The inlet lily pipe, you literally just take out of the pump, draws in the water. If you guys can see here, the inflow goes straight out back into this black box in the back of the filter. Now, in this black box, I'll quickly take it out, and that is basically your filter housing in a sense. Now, inside the filter housing, it came with a little rectangle filter mesh covered in activated carbon. I took it out because carbon was literally falling around everywhere, and there's two very thin mats of fine filter floss, which I removed as well. Now, as you guys can see, I still have quite a big piece of filter mesh here, and basically I just traced out the square that came with the little box, traced it out, cut out a little piece, and I split it in half to make two smaller pieces. And the little black box you can actually open up, basically just pull on the tabs everywhere, and you can lift out the front piece. And as you can see, the filter floss, and basically just cut it in half to make it a little bit thinner. Added one piece to one side, added some filter media in between, and I'm just going to sandwich it between the two filter meshes. Pop everything back together again, and you have a biological filtration, well, a much better biological filtration, ready to go in your hang on the back filter. So quite a cool little feature, I would say, from the hang on the back filter from Superfish. I don't know if any other filters do the same, or any other hang on the back filters do the same, but quite a nifty little feature. And then you just slot it back in, connect it to the pump, connect the lily pipe, and you are good to go with active filtration. The filter media that I am using is unfortunately all dried up, and it is going to take a few weeks for the beneficial bacteria to, well, fully colonize the filter, but at least I have active filtration, much better filtration than just a filter mesh layered in activated carbon and two pieces of fine filter floss. Let's get this back into the tank, get it all running and going, and then I can go and get the cleanup crew. Well, there we go. The tank is clean, and I would say around about maybe 80% of the algae is gone. There's still a little bit of algae here and there, but hopefully the cleanup crew is going to take care of it. I did want to get some Amana shrimp as well, but the shop didn't have any at the moment, so I'm just going to keep an eye out and see how it goes over the next week or two. And if algae does slowly but surely become a nuisance again, I'll most probably get some Amanas then. But I'm just going to stay vigilant on my maintenance and definitely stay on top of that. Do daily water changes. I do hope that all of my, adjustments, will help, especially in the filter. But again, the filter also just needs some time to mature, and we'll see. We'll have a look. Again, if this happens to you guys, don't be afraid and don't panic. Algae can be removed. It can be defeated. And in new tanks and new setups, it's usually the case that algae just takes over at some point. So keep doing the maintenance and the water changes. That's all I can basically say. And yeah, that's going to be it for me. I'm going to, sit back and relax, and I will say I'll catch you guys in the next one.